Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Rachele Teson and I'm a Nationally Certified School Psychologist here in Missouri. Do you ever have trouble finding a certain file within your drive? Or maybe you're experiencing digital file clutter stress because there's so much there? You are not alone. In this week's Tech Tip Tuesday, I'm going to be walking you through how I set up my Google Drive to boost my efficiency and decrease stress. So, if you are brand new to Google Drive, it is something that I would recommend. I love it for organizing all of my electronic files, and it helps keep me really organized. All you would have to do is go to drive.google.com and set up your account from there. So, on your main Google Drive page, it might look something like this. And in order to kind of keep yourself organized, one of the main ways to do this is with folders. So you would click on the plus sign where it says new, and then click on new folder. Another way you can create a folder is just by right clicking anywhere in this main screen and clicking on new folder. I've already got some folders started just so I can kind of model what this would look like. But in my Google Drive, that I use as a practicing school psychologist is I have a folder for every single school year. And I also have an archive folder, which we'll come back to in just a minute. So let's say I just created this 2023-2024 school year folder. Within that folder, I like to create subfolders. This really helps keep things organized. So let's say my first subfolder is all about special education evaluations. That's a big part of what I do. And then maybe there's another subfolder all about student success teams or care teams. Maybe there's another subfolder all about supervision. Maybe you're supervising a school psychology graduate student and you want to house all of your information there. Another folder that I find helpful is something that I call building support. So maybe at back to school time or during parent teacher conferences or during National School Psychology Week, maybe there's these different parts where you can really incorporate yourself and your role into your buildings. Maybe you're providing a little education on what you're doing. Maybe you're providing those boosts of support to staff, whatever that might be. If you have some extra things that you're doing to support your buildings, that's kind of where that would live. And then maybe you have a folder for professional development, whether that's you're attending some PD and here's where you're going to house all of that information, all of those new pieces of knowledge that you're going to bring back to your school or district. Or maybe you're providing some in-service PD for some staff. So that is another place that you could house all of that information. And then once I have these big categories of all the different components of my job, then I go in and I create subfolders. So within special education, for example, let's say instead of having just tons and tons and tons of loose documents within the drive, I want to create those subfolders. I would just right click and select new folder. Let's say I want to house my case log underneath special education. And maybe I'm using that digital case log to house and keep track of all of those compliance due dates and all of the evaluations that are going on. Maybe I need a folder for my master report shell. So I might make a folder for that. And that's where I would house all of the information for my report shell, where I make a copy for every student. Maybe I also need a folder for my assessment templates. And that's where I house all of my cognitive, social emotional, adaptive, and academic achievement templates. Maybe that's where I house all of those. And then maybe I want a folder for my eligibility agendas, all of the visuals and handouts that I use when I'm going over evaluation results with families and school teams. And let's say we've got all of our folders made, but now we want to put them in a better order. So another tip that I have is to make sure that we're being really picky about what we're naming all of our folders. That way we can easily find what we're looking for. So just like that first layer where special education was number one and student success teams were number 2, we can do the same thing with our subfolders. So let's say I want my case log to show up first. All I'd have to do is rename this file and put a 1 in front of it. That way it shows up first. And then next, I want to have my master report shell. I want that to be next. So let's name that 2. And then maybe after that, I want my assessment templates to show up next. And then last, I want my eligibility agendas to show up. So now it's in an order that is logical and makes sense to me, the person who created it. That's what's most important. Now from here, you can color code, which is one of my favorite parts. So let's say within special education, I want all of my folders to be the same color so that it matches. All you would have to do is right click, hover over organize, and then click on the color that speaks to you. You can do this individually, folder by folder, or an even faster way is you can click and drag over all of the folders that you want to change, right click on one of them, hover over organize, and then select the color that you want. And then let's say there are some loose documents down here as things are shared with you, or you have some new resources. Oh, that has to do with special education. I'm going to tuck that away so I can review it later. Maybe those are where these all live. And then as you see commonalities between documents, you might create another folder. Maybe it's all about, oh, here's some really good recommendations. Let me start a new folder, number 5, for recommendations, and then change it to that color, and then keep up with all of the loose files that are down here. Something else that you could consider doing is color coding that kind of first layer of folders. So everything within special education I made pink. So I'm going to do that for my main folder as well. And then let's say everything for student success teams, I'm going to make orange. And then maybe for supervision, since that's next, I'm going to make that yellow, and then continuing on in rainbow order because I just can't help myself. I like everything in rainbow. And then from there, any folders within student success would be orange. Anything within supervision, I would keep yellow. And that way, visually, I know where I'm at within my Google Drive. Something else that you can do if you're thinking, okay, Rachel, this sounds really great, but you haven't seen my Google Drive. There's way too many documents in here. It's a hot mess. I don't know where to start. Don't worry, because I was there at one point and I decided to create a folder called archived. So I hinted at this earlier and I'm going to explain this a little bit more now. So for archived, this is something that helps me to visually declutter this main Google Drive page. And it also allows me to feel that fresh start feeling at the start of the school year. If anyone has that same fresh start feeling when you have a brand new notebook or things like that, I always loved that feeling as a student. And so this is that same feeling for me now as a school psychologist. So whenever I'm finished with a school year, let's say I've got lots of loose documents down here and we're just finishing up the 22-23 school year, I would click and drag and grab all those loose documents, put them in my 22-23 folder, and then I would grab that folder and move it to archived. Or let's say you don't yet have folders by school year, you can start by highlighting everything, moving it to archived, and then as you're creating this new pretty color-coded system, you can start pulling out the documents that you actually use that are actually relevant and putting them where they need to live going forward. So I hope this was a helpful way for you to see how I organize my Google Drive to help decrease my stress and boost my efficiency with file finding. If you have strategies that you're using to save you time within your Google Drive, I would love to hear them in the comments. And if you have any questions, you can also feel free to leave a comment. That way we can continue learning together. See you next week.